Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our series of lessons on the Anglo-Saxons and the Norman invasion. And we have made it to the Battle of Hastings, that final battle of 1066. So it's quite a large topic. So what we're going to do, this lesson is going to be on what happens in the battle. And then we're going to look in the next lessons at why it was the Normans win. So it's a favourite question of examiners. Why did the Normans win the battle? Why did the Saxons lose? So the Battle of Hastings, so it's the last of our three battles. So we're going to do a knowledge recall because we've had quite a bit of knowledge recently that's been a bit fiddly, all those different battles, the names of everyone. So, first up, who were the four main contenders to the throne? So, when Edward the Confessor dies at the start of 1066, doesn't have a son that's an obvious heir. Who are the four main contenders to the throne? Number two, what was the first battle of 1066? So there's three in total. Hastings is the last. What's the first? Which side won that first battle? So was it Normans, Saxons, Vikings? Number four, what was the name of the second battle? And again, who wins the second battle, Normans, Saxons, or Vikings? Okay, so you might need to pause the video to give you time to write all of that down. Okay, so let's see how you did. Four main contenders to the throne, the two Harolds. That's not a spelling mistake. Their names are spelled slightly differently. It's Harold Godwinson and Harald Hardrada, Harold Hardrada, but they're pronounced the same. So we've got Godwinson, Harold Hardrada, William of Normandy, and Edgar. Now, it's one of those things you can refer to William and Edgar by their first names, but because obviously there's two Harolds, you do need the surname so the examiner can check you know which Harold it is you're talking about. So those are the four contenders to the throne. So first battle of 1066, Gate Fulford. Remember, up in Yorkshire? And the side that won the first battle, you should have had the Vikings. So remember, it's Harold Hardrada with some help from Tostig Godwinson invades the north and they fight. They don't fight Harold Godwinson because he's down in the south. They fight the Saxon earls Edwin and Morcar, who are the northern earls who are fighting to defend England. So the Vikings win the first battle, then the second battle, Stamford Bridge. So that's the ones the Vikings are feeling very proud of themselves. They're lounging around with their armour off in a field, waiting for people to give them money and hostages, and then they get taken by surprise by Harold Godwinson. So the second battle won by the Saxons. So well done if you managed to get all of those, because it is tricky keeping the battle straight and the people straight. So last battle then, the very famous Battle of Hastings. So we're back down on the south coast in Hastings. So William stays in the south. Harold Godwinson comes down from the north to meet him. And if you remember, we looked at this last lesson. This is what William is doing down in the south. And remember, we were saying how odd it is that the Normans kind of admit to this. So the scenes from the Bear Tapestry, which remember is made by the Normans. So Saxon women sew it, but on the orders of the Normans. They design it, and the scene shows them burning down houses with women and children in it. So you can see there the women and children running out of the burning house. So the Normans quite open about what they were doing. And what William is doing is trying to hurry Harold into a fight. So ideally, Harold Godwinson, the Saxons, would spend a few days in London gathering reinforcements, making sure they know what they're doing. But instead, because William is burning down areas of England, Harold feels he has to hurry to meet him to stop him. And Harold's own mother actually begs him to stay in London. She's like, don't rush into this. This is what William wants. Maybe a lesson to us all that our parents often give very good advice that we should listen to. Harold Godwinson, like so many others, though, is like, absolutely not. I'm not listening. I'm going to go and fight this battle. So Harold marches down and ends up in a place called Senlac Hill. So he's on the main road from London to where William is. This is the path that if William wants to be king, he wants to go to London, he has to get past Harold and the Saxon army on Senlac Hill. If you are in the south of England and it's not too far for you, if you can go to the battlefield, you can see Battle Abbey, you can stand on Senlac Hill. It gives you a really good sense of actually how small this battlefield is. So it's a really small battlefield. There are thousands of people there fighting in the battle, but they're going to end up really close together. So it gives you a real sense of how close the two armies were. So the Saxon army, mainly the third. So the third are Saxon farmers, and everyone in Saxon society owes duty to the king. If the king needs you to fight in battle, he can call on you and you have to go. You don't have a choice. So your local sheriff or shire reeve comes into the village and is like, you, and you're now in the army. And you get your farming tools, your scythes, your pitchfork, and off you go with your shield. So you can see there that main tactic of the Saxons, shield wall. You lock your shields with everyone next to you and then you fight. Must have been terrifying. So for most people, it's going to be their first ever battle. They've been told they have to go and fight. He does, however, have some professional soldiers. In England, they're called the housecarls. So they're not farmers, they are a rank above them. So these are the elite fighters. They're highly trained, highly skilled. Some historians say that they're the best in Europe. Others disagree with that. But these are certainly brilliant fighters, the housecarls. More Saxons joining from the north all the time as the battle goes on. So really, though, the Saxons have the easier job. Block the road and just keep blocking it. Stop William from getting through. William has the harder job of he has to fight his way through. So most of the battle, the Saxons, they only have one tactic, which is that shield wall. Build a shield wall and hack at anyone that comes near it. And people get quite sneery about this and they go, oh, well, the Saxons only had one tactic, the shield wall. When that failed, they had nothing, which is true. However, it's worth bearing in mind this shield wall stands for most of the battle. Normally, battles at this time are really quick affairs that are over quite quickly. Actually, the Battle of Hastings goes on surprisingly long till almost night has fallen. And the Saxons keep up that shield wall all day. They do a tremendous job. Harold Godwinson right in the front row. Remember, Harold Godwinson has never been short on courage and bravery, has he? He's right in the front row, urging his troops. The Normans are at the bottom of Senlac Hill. So the first thing they have to do is climb up the hill. And if you go and see it, it is quite a steep hill. This is not a gentle slope they need to trot up. They have to sprint up this really steep hill. And we know for a lot of the battle, the Saxons were throwing things down at them because the hill was steep enough they could do this. The Normans, they do have significant advantages. Knights on horseback, first time it's seen in England in a battlefield. So before that, there was rich people who would ride up to the battlefield, but then you would get off your horse, you would fight on foot. So these knights, fancy name for soldiers on horseback is cavalry. First time they were seen, and these horses were battle trained. They were trained to kick and bite. They were trained not to be scared of loud noises. So it's a real advantage. If you are on the back of a horse and you're swinging your sword down, it's going to be much easier than if you're on the ground trying to fight back. They also have what's called mercenaries. So mercenary, again, it's a fancy name for someone that's just a soldier for hire. So if you were a mercenary, your job is to be a soldier, but rather than belonging to your country's army, you move around. Someone's like, I'd quite like you to fight for me. You don't really care about the cause. You just get paid to fight. So you'll fight for anyone as long as they'll pay you. So William sends out a call across Europe for mercenaries. He's like, look, we're going to go invade England. If you come and fight for me, I'll pay you. So he's got a lot of skilled, experienced fighters in his army. And the final thing he has that we really mustn't underestimate is a papal banner. So papal means pope, as in Catholic pope. Banner is just a word for flag. And you can see it in the picture there. That green flag he's holding with the yellow cross. So this was a gift from the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church. So William goes to the head of the Catholic Church and is like, please, would you support me? If you do, and I get to become King of England, I'm going to make the Catholic Church in England amazing. I'm going to build lots of new churches. I'm going to reform it. I'm going to make it better. And the Pope agrees. So the Pope gives the papal banner, the flag that William can fly to show that the Pope is on his side. And why that is so important is it's not just the Pope who's on his side, it's God. It is a symbol for everyone on the battlefield, Saxons and Normans, that God is on the side of the Normans. So as a morale boost for the Normans, it's huge. So don't underestimate the papal banner. God wants the Normans to win. That's what they think. So the battle itself, really quite a simple affair. There is not a lot that happens in the battle that you need to know about. The cavalry keep charging at the shield wall, but they have no impact. They keep shying away from it. The Normans are really struggling to break that shield wall. So they try with cavalry, they try with archers, but the arrows just hit the shields. For most of the battle, the Saxons are winning. So the shield wall standing strong, the Normans trying to break it but not being able to. And then a really key event happens. So on one end of the battlefield is a group of soldiers it's now France, but it was Brittany, called the Bretons. So they are troops on the side. They're fighting for the Normans, the Bretons, and they get scared and they run away. So they run down the hill away from the shield wall. And what some Saxons do, they make a huge mistake. They see the Bretons running away and they charge after them and they cut them down, to kill them. So they see it as a real victory. Part of the Norman army's running away, so they chase them down the hill. And the reason it's important is because it breaks the shield wall, which is what the Normans are trying to do. The whole aim of the Normans in the Battle of Hastings break the shield wall, and it's broken right in front of them. So poor Harold Godwinson stuck on the front lines. He can't move, so he can't go over and tell them to stop. As it happens, the cavalry then charge in, and the Saxons are all killed, the ones chasing the Bretons. But it gives William an idea. So what he tells the Normans to do is run up to the shield wall, attack it, and then pretend to run away. And as they pretend to run away, the Saxons break the shield wall and chase them. And then the cavalry come in and kill the Saxons. And it happens time and time again in the battle. And what it's doing is weakening that shield wall. So Harold can't move. In fact, there are sources that said the Saxons were so tightly packed in that the dead couldn't even fall to the ground. They were so wedged in next to each other. So Harold can't sort of elbow his way out and run around going, stop breaking the shield wall. William, however, is on horseback. He can gallop up and down the battlefield giving orders. So bless them, the poor Saxons, they were doing so well, but the shield wall keeps breaking and it just gives that opportunity for the Normans. So the Normans break through the shield wall, the cavalry manage to get in, and the Saxons are killed. The final thing, probably one of the most famous events in British history. Harold Godwinson is killed. His two brothers, who were also there, the former Earls Leithwine and Gurth, they're also killed. So Harold's poor mother, remember, she'd already lost Tostig at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Now she's lost three more of her sons at the Battle of Hastings. She only has one son still alive, and he's going to be held captive by the Normans. So this marks not just the fall of Saxon England, but really the fall of the House of Godwin. And do you remember that lesson where we looked at it and they were so powerful and the king was having to do what they wanted? They had so much power, and now the whole family has been destroyed. So Harold is killed. Famously, the story goes he was killed with an arrow to his eye, except we think he probably wasn't. We think he was cut down by soldiers. There are some other sources that are like he was cut apart by swords. The reason the whole arrow in the eye thing, do you remember the embassy to Normandy? And Harold goes on that trip, and we're not quite sure why. The Saxons say one thing, the Normans say it's because he swore a holy promise that William would be king. Now, in the Bible, there is a bit that says if you break a holy promise, God will pluck out your eye. So we think the whole arrow in the eye is the Normans' not very subtle way of going, Harold broke his holy promise, and look, God plucked his eye out with the arrow. So that's where we think the whole arrow in the eye thing has come from. More likely he was cut down by swords. Poor Harold Godwinson. So after the battle, the remaining Saxons run away, the army disperses. William, quite understandably, thinks that's job done. So he waits for the Saxons to come and proclaim him king. He's waiting for them to sort of turn up and go, good job. You killed our king, so you are the rightful king. Instead, though, the Witan, remember the King's Council, they nominate Edgar as the next king. So they're not quite done yet. So next lesson, more on looking at why the Normans win, why did the Saxons lose, and then we'll go on and look at what happens when Edgar becomes king.